Hey, what's up? Kalen here. Welcome to yesterday's tweets today, number 12. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you're having a great day. I have been testing out all morning my streaming settings. I did some tweaks to to my setup a little bit. I got my fancy Lumix camera here, so hopefully the camera quality is a little bit better. And got my Magento sign all lit up in the back, which I wasn't really able to do with the laptop camera because it just like the quality was it just wouldn't. It was just a big orange blur, so it's kind of neat. I gotta say, man, TJ's. If you don't know TJ Gamble's YouTube channel, E-commerceaholic, you got to check it out. His live stream quality is fire. It's so nice. I have no idea how he does it. It's crisp. It's perfect. I actually had to do I'm doing a little bit of a cheat today. I'm pre-recording this video and then I'm going to run it through OBS to stream it. Not because I'm afraid of doing the live stream, because I'm not, but because the quality, I couldn't find a way to stream it at a good quality. And what I was doing previously, before I was using OBS, this is super inside baseball, but sorry, was that I was recording on QuickTime simultaneously, which was high quality, and then I was streaming using Restream's webcam thingy, which worked cool because I could stream at the same time and record a high quality version at the same time. But the quality of the Restream was really bad, so I had to use OBS, which the quality is a little better, still not great. I don't know what the bottleneck is, but then I wouldn't have a high quality version to upload later to YouTube. So I'm trying this out, just continually tweaking, hacking, trying to figure it out. So I don't know how TJ does it, but his streams are beautiful. All right. So today, what do we got lined up? Last season of Startup Podcast, paying for ad-free versions of social media, playing with Webflow, my first reply from Gary Vee, a philosophy of writing, and investing with Republic, and something related to mental health, and then an example of a great promoted tweet that I saw, which I think is a good promoted tweet. So let's jump on into it. Let's dive in. All right, so I started listening to the last season of Startup. So if you haven't seen Startup Podcast, it's pretty nice, very nice, from Gimbal, Alex Bloomberg, and I can't believe it's been 5 years since Gimlet started. I remember hearing that first season like it was yesterday. It was when I was kind of building my first business and my first product business, and I was just like getting so much inspiration from it. And he has such a skill in capturing stories that are unique, right? So like you never heard somebody capture a podcast of actually starting a startup, and like that moment where he gives his pitch to the VC guy, Chris, I can't remember what his name was, and it's like so awkward, and like the way he captures just the full-on awkward moments and takes you behind the scenes, but there's still a level of quality to the production is just unreal. And I have one of the things I definitely liked the first season of Startup the best, and then subsequent seasons they kind of, out of necessity had to pivot to different topics and stuff like that, and then had different hosts. And it's still a quality podcast, but like when he does it himself, it's next level. And so this last season, they talk about their acquisition by Spotify, and it's funny because I remember hearing that they were acquired by Spotify and going like, oh, that's cool. Like, and then like not, I was like, I feel like I should hear him talking about it or saying something more in depth, and I was like, it's weird. It just sort of silently happened. And now that I'm seeing this series come out, I'm like, okay, he had the plan all along. And so I heard the first episode, Our Company Has Problems is the title of it. And he just really, they really get right into like a lot of the issues they had as a company. and stuff that a lot of times you don't talk about when there's an acquisition. Like you talk about you give it a pretty, you talk about the positive aspects and things like that. But anyways, it was just really good. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of it. Because it was just great. I mean, he talks about problems with his co-founder, problems with the business model. And the other thing I have to say about this is it's funny because on the one hand, I was thinking to myself, like, before I started listening to this podcast and getting the kind of in-depth story on it, I was thinking to myself, oh wow, like they got acquired by Spotify, like success story, right? And then now that I'm listening to it, it's like, oh, their business was going downhill. They were burning cash, like they were burning like $1 million a month or something like that. They were burning money fast. And so it was almost like they needed to be rescued. And then I was like, oh, like it was like, oh, wow. It gave me a different picture of them as a company, which is what's so powerful, again, about how transparent he is about telling these stories, is that he says things that other people just wouldn't say. And so, but it made me think, like, man, and I think about this a lot, like the difference between sort of the VC-backed model where you're going for rocket ship, explosive growth, and then the more sustained, more slow but very healthy growth model, which I'm more of a fan of. And I think to myself, like, because they launched some insane number of shows and they hired fast. It's like 100 people, and they were going for really, really fast growth. And it makes me think, and he talks in other episodes of the podcast, I remember him talking about the tension of him sort of letting go of creative control a little bit, putting more of the CEO hat on and stuff like that. And I think to myself, like, of an alternate universe where instead of going for the explosive growth, like what if they just went from more sustained but like super healthy growth, where like they added like one podcast a year instead of, like, I don't know, they must have been adding 10, 15 a year or something crazy. And where like each like podcast, because like the podcasts are all quality, but like they're not all that level that the first one was, and that some of them are Reply All. Like some of them are just like total like insane quality, right? And it makes me think, like, what if he had gone at like a slower pace and just really focused on quality and still had a super healthy business, like super healthy, and been able to really focus on the art of it and the craft. It would have been cool. But who knows? Now that he's probably got enough money to do whatever he wants, it'll be super interesting to see what he does next, and maybe he'll just like just do a podcast, like, and just do like a super cool podcast or whatever. All right. Anyways, that's enough on that. That was 8 minutes on that one item. So this is either going to be a very long stream, or I'm going to try to wrap it up in 20 minutes, which is sort of my average these days. All right, next up, paying for ad-free version of social media. So I can hear my baby crying in the background a little bit. Hopefully that's not coming through on the audio. It would be interesting to see a graph over time of average ad revenue per user, because I suspect they have increased it significantly. You try to increase the so this was a tweet from a guy named G. Taylor McKnight, which was talking about basically why can't you charge a subscription fee for social media? I imagine while the average they make is $12 per month per person, this is talking about Facebook, I think. They probably make much more on the folks that are willing to spend that to buy their privacy. So this is something I was thinking about too, like on Twitter, like I've been using Twitter a lot lately, and really sort of falling in love with Twitter all over again, I have to say. And I would love to pay $10-20 a month for an ad-free version of it. And I think that there are, this is a pretty established model where, the free version has ads, the paid version doesn't have ads. I mean, YouTube Premium, there's a ton of Spotify, Pandora. I mean, there's a ton of examples of this. And it almost seems like it should just be across the board a standard model. in the same way that like certain features just become standard across all social media, right? Like notifications, mentions, right? These all become standard across all of social media. And so I don't understand, like it would be super cool if like you just have the option to pay. But one of the things I suspect is that social media companies can significantly increase their average revenue per user over time by tweaking ads, machine learning, increasing the ads that you see. I mean, YouTube, like, used to not see so many ads. Now you see ads constantly. It'd be super interesting to see a graph of revenue per user over time, because I imagine they might be tripling, quadrupling, 10xing their revenue per user over time. Whereas, so that $12 a month, which many people might be happy to pay, they might be able to double that within a year. And now they're making $24 per user. Whereas if you charge a subscription fee, increasing that amount is going to be almost impossible, right? Increasing from, if you had 1 million people paying $12 a month for Twitter and they wanted to increase it by $2 to $14 a month, there would be massive outcries and blood in the streets, right? Like, people would not be happy about that. So I suspect maybe that's the reason they don't do this. But it would be cool if they did it. It'd be super cool. All right. Next up, playing with Webflow. So I started jumping into Webflow, and it's incredible. I'm starting to prototype out basically Commerce Hero for Shopify, which you can see on my handy tablet screen here, if you're watching by video. And it's pretty cool. Like, I have to say, it's really nice. First of all, it's complicated, and it's an interesting editor to work in, because it's a little bit feels like Photoshop. Like, you click on things and can drag things around, but it's very like HTML native, in the sense that, like, you don't just modify font sizes manually or colors. Like, you select classes on elements, which is of course the right way to do it. But then at first you're like, wait, what classes do I want to use? And so there's definitely a bit of a learning curve, but it's so cool. And I have to say, at least for myself, like, I always think of myself as a developer, and I have this mix of development, product, creating landing pages. I mean, a lot of this is copywriting. It's writing stuff that looks cool, right? It's like picking images that look cool, right? And it's like, as I'm now exploring using Webflow, as a user, where I'm not thinking about code, I'm like, wow. I'm like, I think this is sort of more of my core skill set, is like the non-code stuff. And everybody's like, yeah, that was obvious, dude. You're not a very good developer. But yeah, it's really neat to be able to mess with this. And as far as I know, you can do some really sophisticated stuff on Webflow. And so tying into CMS with dynamic data that populates and stuff like that. So I'm basically going to try to clone Commerce Hero and then simplify some of the stuff. There's so much stuff in there that is sort of, I built functionality that I later realized it wasn't that important. So I think I'm going to, simplify down some stuff, but have the most important stuff in there, and, see how it goes. Right. And then, so that should be fun to mess around with. So yeah, it was cool to dive into Webflow a little bit. My first reply from Gary Vee. This was exciting. So I followed Gary Vee for a while. He did the keynote at Imagine recently, which was exciting. And I've done a bajillion posts and videos and have mentioned him several times. And I know how busy he is, and that he dips into social media and replies individually. But, he's got a fire hose of stuff. So I understand he doesn't see it all. And so he replied the other day, which was super cool. It was my tweet, idea for a content team as a service, Gary Vee style. And then my buddy Mark replied, no, please no. And I'm like, why? And he goes, I just can't take any more Gary Vee style videos in my feed. And then Gary Vee replied, haha, fair. And so the worst part of this is he didn't even reply to me. He replied to Mark, who was like criticizing him. And so it was cool to see. But at the same time, I was like, dang, man, he didn't even reply to me. But I'm literally, I'm still excited about just getting that first reply. So I'm like, this is going up on my wall. I was planning to just print it out. And then Mark pointed me to a Twitter account, Framed Tweets, which is a site where you can literally post a tweet, enter a tweet, and then pay for a framed version of it. So I was like, okay, let's do this. So I did it. It's like $45. And so that should get here soon. I'm going to put the framed tweet right up here on my wall. It's going to be dope. All right. So that was just a little bit of fangirling. A philosophy of writing. So this is a great tweet from David Parral. My philosophy of writing: write every day, write in public to improve the quality of your thinking, write for clarity, not to impress people, write about your curiosities. You don't need to be an expert. Write for the most intelligent person you know. And I'm thinking about this actually in the context of the videos I've been doing. But I think a lot of this applies. I think really this stuff all applies to creating or communicating more broadly than just writing. But David is an incredible writer and does some really, really interesting stuff. But like, yeah, write every day, right? So I'm doing these videos every day, and it's hard to do that, but you get a little bit better. You make tweaks every day and you make improvement. Write in public, right? So like do stuff in public to improve the quality of your thinking, because you're going to get feedback on stuff. You're going to get pushback. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it is going to improve the quality. And it's, there's obviously other benefits to writing in public, right? You build an audience, you get, business and things like that. But possibly the most important thing is improving the quality of your thinking, because that is the most important lever that's going to improve everything else in your life and in your business, right? If you can really improve the quality of your thinking, write for clarity, not to impress people. This is great too. Like, and I'm trying to work on that too in the videos, like try to work on expressing and building those communication skills, whatever medium it's in, if it's written, if it's audio, if it's video, working on improving your clarity. I love this other one. Write about your curiosities. You don't need to be an expert. This is something I struggle with a lot as I started thinking about doing videos on more broad topics, as opposed to, previous to this, I've been like, I should just stick to Magento and only e-commerce stuff. And I think there's definitely a place for that, and focus is important. But I think that over time, as I was a little bit less interested in some of those topics, like you can either fake it and pretend to be interested in those topics or try to force yourself, or you can sort of follow the things you're actually interested in and curious about, right? So I talked about the startup podcast in the beginning of this, which is like, how is that relevant to my Magento community or e-commerce community? It's not. But at the same time, it probably is, because we're all, we all have interests outside of e-commerce and things like that. And so, I listen to podcasts on all sorts of random topics, and I know that everybody's like that. And like this thing, you don't need to be an expert. I think so much of the time we can be crippled by needing to be an expert, wanting to be an expert. And so yeah, that's huge. And then lastly, write for the most intelligent person you know. Was a little counterintuitive for me, because sometimes I think, well, you want to communicate to the widest possible audience, or for the dumbest person you know. And then so I asked him to flesh out that last point, and he said, aim to have intelligent readers. Simple as that. They improve your thinking and become lifelong friends. I'm like, yeah, that's so powerful. Like don't try to communicate for the lowest common denominator. Just communicate for what you're truly interested in. And the people that are going to connect with you, that are going to be the most connected with you, is really are the most important factor. So I really love that tweet. Moving along, investing with Republic. So This is super cool. I haven't looked into it that closely, so I don't understand exactly how it works. But I had tweeted like 5 days ago, is there an easy way to invest on the order of low thousands of dollars at a time in small bootstrap companies? And and I got a little bit of feedback, but not much. And then yesterday I saw somebody tweet about Republic, guy named Dennis, I believe. I don't have his Twitter handle here, which I should. Sorry about that. But who had mentioned this, and I looked at it, Republic, and it's an open investment platform. Choose from privately held companies you believe in and connect with their success as you fuel their growth. So I think this is exactly it. So like now you can be an angel investor. If you're watching on the video, here's the homepage. And so you can invest, let alone low thousands of dollars, you can invest as little as $10 in private startups and earn a return if the startup succeeds. I believe this is based on blockchain or initial coin offerings. I'm not completely sure, but I'm really excited to check this out and learn more about it because I love the idea of investing in. I talked in the beginning about what would happen if Gimlet had not gone the VC route and had gone the like more sustainable growth model. And this is exactly what that is, right? Like, if you can invest in companies that aren't forced into this, insane level of growth to pay back VCs, but they can go to more sustainable pace, and you can still invest in them and get a return. Like that's really exciting. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to check that out. And then I think I'm going to skip this mental health one that I mentioned. I'll try to get back at that one later. Lastly, a great promoted tweet. So this was cool. So I usually pay attention to like ads that I see, and like I'm like, is that a good ad? Is that a bad ad? And so much of the time, like I can tell something is an ad before like as you're scrolling in your feed, you can tell it's an ad because you like see it's like an image and it's a very like bright, eye-catchy image, and then I sort of you get banner blindness to those, so I sort of automatically this is probably an ad, and then sure enough I'll see promoted in the thing. But this one was from Shalom Volchak. I'm gonna just show it here on the tablet real quick. Probably can't see that very well on the video, but maybe, not sure. But I completely thought this was an organic tweet for the first like 10 seconds of seeing it, because it just looks like a tweet. It's not an image. It's like it has a screenshot of like a code editor. It's got like emojis in it. It's blazing less than 40 millisecond responses from a dynamic headless CMS built for A/B testing, React.js server-side rendering out of the box. So it looks like it looks like something I'd see one of my developer buddies tweet about. And I think that, that's the way, like, that's just really smart. That's the way to do it. Like, you want to have ads that feel native to the platform. And especially on Twitter, this feels very native to the platform. So now I'm super curious. Oh, and then the best part about it, the call to action is DM me if interested, right? So it's not click on this link to go to the landing page, which takes you out of Twitter. It's just shoot me a DM, right? Which is so smart. I think probably every ad on Twitter, that should be the call to action. So yeah, I think this is a great ad. Now I'm super curious to know how well it's doing. Yeah. So that's it. Let's see how long we went for. 23 minutes. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Well, hope you have a fantastic Saturday and rest of your weekend, and thanks for tuning in.